Bonjour and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is about you and the questions that you've asked about the apartment that we purchased in the south of France. Now there's a number of interesting questions that you might be interested in their responses, and in particular stick around for the final question. It's a deceptively simple question, but it could have a significant bearing on the type of property that you would want to rent or buy in France. Okay, let's get into it. The first question is from Raymond Clark, and he says, "Thank you for sharing your time and setup in Beziers. I am planning a move there in early 2026. Do you have a link or contact for the agency and the people in this video who seem to be so kind and helpful? Merci, Raymond." Good question, Raymond, and there's a couple of real estate agents whose details I'd like to give you. We found them to be exceedingly helpful. Firstly, the agent who we purchased our apartment through was Marie Saudadier from the real estate company Orpi Group and Denea, which is in Avenue Georges Clemenceau in the centre of Beziers. Marie was wonderful, and so were the rest of her team in the office, and they were very helpful with us right through the whole process. Another agent who we found really helpful, we didn't actually end up buying a property through her, but she was wonderful to deal with, and we still keep in contact with her, and she's still a very helpful person with some of our questions that we have. Her name was Natalie Perenjassi, and she is a really exceptional agent with great command of English, and she showed us properties that met our criteria and just worked very hard to help us through the process. And even when we decided that we would buy a property through Orpi, she was still very helpful, very friendly, and we would certainly recommend her as a person to contact to help you find a suitable property. Okay, the next question is from Joseph Marshall, and he says, "Thank you for sharing. I'm Irish, but living in the US and thinking of a return to Europe. I like Beziers, and it seems to have a healthy and active expat community. Your apartment looks great. Can you share some of the costs if you feel comfortable doing so? The purchase and the renovation. Thanks." Well, firstly, Joseph, you're right. It does have a very healthy and active expat community. We've found it to be wonderful. The people are friendly. We've formed a lot of good friends already in the short time that we've been in Beziers, and we just have so much fun. In terms of the costs, I've worked out an approximation of what we've spent, and I'll show those on the screen to you now. So the first table on the screen is the purchase costs. Now this includes all of the setup costs for our apartment, right down to glassware and knives and forks and bed linen, etc., etc. So just what you'd expect if you were walking into an Airbnb. These are all the costs that were involved in getting our apartment to that level. So the purchase price of the apartment was 124,000 euros. Now the closing costs, people see notaire fees and they think, gosh, that's a lot of money to be paying a lawyer for basically undertaking the sale and purchase transaction. But in actual fact, the vast majority of the amount that you'll pay the notaire goes in property taxes. So the amount that the notaire gets is actually quite a small portion of that's shown as the closing costs there. The notaire, he was chosen by the vendor. We were happy to go with him. He was excellent. I've left his contact details on the screen there for you to have a look at. He insisted that we have an English translator on hand right throughout the actual settlement process, where we all sat around in his office for a couple of hours and went through the contract basically clause by clause, and he wanted to make sure that we had a translator there who could answer any of our questions and make sure we completely understood what it was we were signing. We had a furniture package from the apartment seller. He had moved overseas, so he sold us pretty much everything that was in the apartment, and it was really great for us because it meant that we had most of what we needed right from the first day. We did have to purchase a number of additional items, just some home appliances, some extra linen and stuff like that. So I've put in roughly €2,000 there. We purchased from a bricant a dining table, and from another bricant 6 dining chairs, and they came to the great total of €125 for a lovely dining suite. We also purchased a large kitchen unit from a bricant within Beziers, and I'll show that on the screen there. We purchased an armoire for bedroom 2, and that was €99, but we also had paid for delivery and assembly and bringing it up the stairs, etc. So all up, it was around about €140,000. So you can calculate how much that works out at in your own currency. Now the next screen is the renovation costs. Now, but bear in mind that I do pretty much all the work in the way of renovating myself. So it's mostly just material costs. And I've completely repainted the inside bar, a few walls that are still to go. I'm waiting for warmer weather in this coming summer to finish them off. And the paint worked out around about €1,000 overall. We purchased 3 chandeliers and various building materials that we've bought, screws and nuts and bolts and bits of timber and hardware and things. And we also had an electrician come to fit the chandeliers and do a couple of other electrical jobs here as well. So all up, in the first 6 months, we've only spent a couple of thousand on renovating, which is not a lot. And we've got the place looking pretty good in our view. We're very happy with the way it is. And okay, the third question is from David, and he says, curious to know how you are surviving all that flooding. Well, there's certainly been a lot of rain in and around Beziers and around much of France and elsewhere in Europe over recent weeks. And Beziers certainly copped its fair share. In terms of our apartment, we're actually fortunate we're up on the hill. We're well above the Orbe River, which flows through Beziers. And so, we have no trouble with flooding. Of course, there are some places that are down very close to the level of the river, so those places are obviously much more at risk when there's heavy and persistent rain. The next question is from Baby Mama. Nice job in the shower. Did you replace the shower head and sprayer? Yes, we did. Basically, it was a screw-on fitting for the shower head and hose, but I did have to also replace the shower rail because that was very tarnished as well. Now, Janet scored this amazing bargain in Leroy Merlin. She found this complete set for €8.80, and I fitted it myself. It needed a bit of work. We achieved a whole new shower rail and shower head and sprayer for less than €9. The next question is from One Wheel, who says, I wish someone would explain the nomenclature of the real estate information, the T2/T3 business and the climate and energy ratings, the charges that are listed on the advertising. It is the coded language I, for one, cannot decode. Yes, well, I feel for you there. It is certainly very different to what we were used to. So I'll just try and give you a very brief overview, and I'll put a link in the description below for some further information on these items that'll help you understand a lot more about it than what I can explain here. The T followed by a number is referring to the number of rooms in the property. Now, something like a T1 is generally a studio apartment, so that'll be where the living area and bedroom area are all in one. A T2 will generally be a 1-bedroom apartment with a separate living area. A T3 will likely be a 2-bedroom apartment plus a living area. And bear in mind that the number of rooms does not include kitchen, bathroom or toilet, so those will be extra. It can get complicated. Always seek professional advice before signing any contract, or if you're unsure at all about a property that you're looking at. For the energy ratings, all homes that are sold or rented in France must have an energy rating, and it goes from A to G, with A being the most energy efficient, and those with an F or G rating are known as passoire énergétique, which translates roughly as being an energy sieve. So obviously they've got terrible energy efficiency. So it's really important to know what the energy rating is of a property that you're looking at. Obviously the higher the better, and you also need to bear in mind that properties that are rated F and G are difficult, if not impossible, to rent out, and the law is gradually tightening up over coming years, so that properties that are rated G, F and in a few years E will not be able to be rented out. So if you're buying a property with the intention of renting it out, you need to be very careful about what you're buying in terms of the energy rating, because it will have a long-term effect on the value of your property. And sometimes properties with a low energy rating are quite difficult to sell and definitely can't be rented out in many cases. But again, it's a very technical area and you should always seek advice. The rating will be carried out by a professional organisation, and the rating will depend on things like whether the property has double glazing, whether it's insulated, the type of heating or cooling systems that are used, the water heating, etc., etc. So it's a very complicated area. Make sure you understand what the rating relates to with a property that you're looking to perhaps buy. If you're buying a property with a low rating, be very clear on what it is you would have to do and get professional advice on how you would be able to increase the rating to a more acceptable level. And of course, at the end of the day, the lower the energy rating, the more it's going to cost you to heat and cool that property year round. The next question is from Abu Bakr Siddiq, and he makes some nice comments about the channel. He mentions that the channel isn't perhaps getting as many subscribers as it deserves, and so this is a shameless plug. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button below, and then you can keep up to date with our videos in the future as we continue our journey in the south of France. The final question we'll cover today is from Raymond or Ramona, I'm not sure which, sorry, saying, lovely videos, where do you store the bikes when not in use? Now this is a very simple question. It has a short answer and a long answer. The short answer is that we store our 2 electric bikes in our second bedroom. Now what we've found in talking to many other expats in Beziers is that many people want to go bike riding, and it's easy to understand. There's some absolutely beautiful bike rides in and around Beziers, so getting a bike is actually quite an important thing for many people who are looking to buy or rent in France in general, and Beziers in particular. Now for people that are my age, often they're looking at getting an electric bike. Janet and I have electric bikes. We just love them. But the thing you have to bear in mind is we're on the first floor of a building. Our bikes, whenever we go for a bike ride, they have to be carried down and then back up a staircase after we've completed our ride. Now those bikes weigh in excess of 20 kilos each, so they're not light. And if you're looking at buying an electric bike to use when you're in an apartment, you need to be very aware of where you're going to store it and can you yourself get it in and out of where it needs to be, because they're heavy. And I've heard people say, oh yes, but I'll get a smaller folding electric bike. That'll be a lot easier. And whilst it will take up less of an area to store, it still generally weighs over 20 kilos, and those small bikes are often really only suitable for round town riding and not suitable for riding out in the countryside, which is really what most people want to do in a place like Beziers. So you need to think carefully about where you would rent or buy if you want to have your own electric bike. Can you get it yourself up and down stairs? And if not, well, then you need to think very carefully about whether that's the right property for you. That's not to say there aren't alternatives. You could, for example, rent bikes every time you want to go riding, or you could find somewhere at a friend's place that perhaps there's a garage that you can store it at. You might buy a townhouse that has a garage anyway if you're going to have a car, so you would have street entry for your bike and that would not be a problem. Some of the modern apartments have lifts, so that gets over the problem as well. Many buildings like our one have basements, but I'd caution against thinking you're going to easily store your bike down there, because here's what our staircase looks like going down into our carve. So it's definitely a consideration. If you're going to buy an electric bike, you need to think carefully about the sort of place you're going to rent or buy, so that you can enjoy a wonderful pastime in France. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the answer to those queries. Thanks for sticking around. If you've got any other queries, please mention them in the comments below or in the comments on other videos that we've posted online, and we'll do our best to get back to you in a future video. I've been doing this video by myself. Janet's on grandchildren minding duties a couple of 1,000 kilometres away from here. She'll be back soon, and we'll be back in Beziers very shortly. We're really looking forward to that. We're currently in Australia. So that's it for now. It's bye from Australia, and it'll soon be bye from Beziers again.